Alright, I'll apologize in advance because I lost my stylus, and so my handwriting might be kind of bad. So the first equation is a circle. So the center is whatever is subtracted from the x and whatever is subtracted from the y. And since there are no numbers, the center is 0, 0. The radius is the square root of that number. So the square root of 36 is 6. The same kind of thing is going to happen on number 2. The number next to the x is the h, and the number next to the y is the k, and we're going to put them in that order with the opposite sign. So since it's plus 2, we're going to have negative 2, and since it's plus 4, we're going to have negative 4. And then we'll take the square root of that number, which is the radius is 6. Now we're going to do the opposite. Now we're going to plug these numbers into the circle equation. So the first number will be the h, the second number will be the k, and then we're going to square the 3 when we go to put it in. So let's start off with parentheses x minus, that's part of the formula. Now we're going to put in the h, which is negative 1. We'll close it and square it, put a plus sign, parenthesis, y minus, because that's part of the formula. Now we'll put in the k, it's 7. Close the parenthesis, that's going to equal the radius squared. Don't forget to square it. So let's go through and simplify some stuff. Looks like we can make that into a plus sign, and we can change that 3 squared to 9. And that'd be your final answer. Oops, forgot to square that y quantity. Alright, there we go. We just need 2 things to write the equation of the circle. We need the coordinates of the center, so we need how far over and how far up. So that coordinate is 6 over on the x, and it is 5 up on the y. So that's our h, that's our k. Now we need to find out how long the radius is. And if we count 1, 2, 3, it's 3 boxes across. So the radius is 3. So we're going to take all of those and plug them into the circle formula. X minus h, which is 6, close it and square it, plus y minus k, which is 5, close it and square it, and that equals the radius squared. The only thing here that needs to be simplified is 3 squared is 9. So that's your final answer. My advice for problems like these is to sketch a quick graph of what it looks like. So if I were to graph -5, -9, that would be somewhere down there. And if I were to graph 3, -3, it'd be about right there. So those are the endpoints of the diameter on the circle. We're trying to figure out where is the center and how long is the radius. So we have our 2 endpoints. Let's go ahead and label those x1, y1, and x2, y2. So first we need the midpoint formula. That's when we take the x's and add them up. So it's going to be -5 plus 3 over 2. Then we'll take the y's and add them up. So that's going to be -9 plus -3 over 2. And now we just need to reduce this. We're going to get -2 over 2 and -12 over 2. And when you simplify those, you get -1, -6. And that looks reasonable. That looks like it's about -1, -6. Great. So we have the answer for the center, -1, -6. Now we just need the radius. We need to figure out how far it is from the middle to the edge. So why don't we use the distance formula with our 2 points. This time we're going to subtract the x's. So it's going to go -5 minus 3 squared, and then we will add on what we get when we subtract the y's. It'll be -9 minus -3. And now we'll simplify. We will get -8 squared, and then -9 plus 3 is -6 squared. So we get 64 plus 36. Whenever you square negatives, they become positive. 64 plus 36 is 100, and the square root of 100 is 10. So all the way across from one dot to the other, that's 10. But we only want half of it. We just want the radius. So half of 10 is 5. So 5 units is the answer for the radius. Same process in number 6. Let's make a quick sketch of this graph. 0 over 2 down would be about right there. And 8 over and 4 up would be about right there. So those are the endpoints of this circle's diameter. We need to find how far it is for the radius and where is that center. So let's do the midpoint formula with our 2 points. x1, y1 is the first coordinate. x2, y2 is the second. So let's take those x's and add them up. It's going to be 0 plus 8. 0 plus 8 over 2. Now let's take the y's and add them up. It'll be -2 plus 4 divided by 2. So when we simplify this, we get 8 over 2 and -2 over 2, which simplifies to 4. Oops, just getting +2. 2. So we get 4, 1. And that dot looks like it's about 4 over and 1 up. Great. Now we just have to find the radius. So let's do that distance formula. We'll take the x's and subtract them. So we're going to take 0 minus 8, square it. We're going to take the y's and subtract them. -2 minus 4. And simplify. We're going to get -8 squared and -6 squared. And if you remember, -8 squared is 64, -6 squared is 36. That's the square root of 100, which is 10. So it's 10 all the way across the circle, but we only want half of it. So the radius is 5 units. Hopefully you have your formula sheet handy and you can be labeling the items we have in this problem. The vertex is always A and the covertex is always B. So guess what? We have exactly what we need in order to write the equation for this. All we have to do is figure out, is this horizontal or vertical? Well, if you think about it, the vertex being -5 over on the x, see how the -5 is in the x spot? It's centered at 0, 0, so that means it's at -5 and +5. And then that the covertex is 3 up. See how that's in the y position? And -3 down. If you just make a quick drawing of that, you can see this is a horizontal ellipse. Or you could tell because the A is the bigger number and the A is in the x spot. So underneath the x squared, we're going to put the 5 squared. Ellipses have a plus sign in the formula. Then we'll put the y squared, and underneath that we'll put the number for b, which is 3, and square it, and ellipses always equal 1. So let's just simplify. This is going to be x squared over 25 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. Let's see what they gave us in number 8. The vertex is A, and it's in the x spot, so this is going to be a horizontal ellipse. Then they gave us the focus. The focus is C. Unfortunately, we would really like to know what B is, so we need to use that little formula, C squared equals A squared minus B squared. We'll plug in C, so it's going to be 12 squared. We'll plug in A, it'll be 13 squared, and then we'll solve it for B. So this will be 144 equals 169 minus B squared. We'll subtract 169 from both sides, and we come up with 25, negative 25. It's going to equal negative B squared. Those two negatives are going to cancel each other out, and the last thing we have to do is square root the B. So we're going to get plus or minus 5. Now we can plug our A, the 13, and the B, 5, into the ellipse formula. It's horizontal, so that means the x squared will go first, and it will have the number for A underneath it. It's going to be A squared, so 13 squared, 169. Now we'll put the y, and underneath it we're going to put B squared, which is 5 squared, or 25, and those equal 1. All right, to graph this, we need to know where the center is. The center is at H, comma, K, and it'll have the opposite signs. So positive 1, positive 2. So first plot that point, 1 over 2 up. Now we just need to square root, and it's going to be plus or minus 5 and plus or minus 3, and we have to know which axis to count those on. The 5s are underneath the x, so those are going to go on the x-axis. So from the center, always start at the center, count over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up 3 and down 3 from the center. So up 3, down 3, and then you connect those with the ellipse. First, let's find the center of this ellipse. The H is next to the X, so the H is right there. The K is next to the Y, so it's right there. So in order, H with the opposite sign will be negative 2 first, and then the K with the opposite sign, so it'll be positive 1. So let's plot that. Negative 2, positive 1 is right there. Okay? Now let's see if this is horizontal or vertical. We'll square root both of those, get plus or minus 5 and plus or minus 6. Which is the bigger number? 6. Which letter is it under? The X. So that means from that blue dot that we just made, we have to go to the left and to the right 6. So 6 that way, 6 that way, and we're going to go up and down 5. So that's up 5 and down 5, and then you can connect them. All right, let's graph this hyperbola. The center will be at 0, 0, because there's no number subtracted from the x and nothing subtracted from the y. So the center is right in the middle. Now we'll square root these numbers, and we'll get plus or minus 4 and plus or minus 6. Which way do we count these? We count the 4 on the x-axis because that's underneath the x, so to the left and the right 4. And we count up and down 6 because those are underneath the y. So up 6 and down 6. Now we connect those with our box. I know it's supposed to be a dotted line, but that's just kind of hard on here. We make our asymptotes through the corners and through the center. And now we have to draw the hyperbola. Which way do we draw it? For hyperbolas, it's whichever letter comes first. So, since the x squared is first, it's going to be horizontal, and the hyperbola will be drawn through the vertices and along the asymptotes like that. This hyperbola is with a center h, k. The opposite of -2 is +2, and the opposite of +1 is -1. So this is 2 over and 1 down. So the center will be right there. Now let's see how big we draw the box. It's going to be 3 and 6. It'll be 3 wide because that's on the x-axis. So from that dot, we go over 3 to the right and to the left. And then we're going to go up and down 6. So that's up 6. Oops, on the 5. And then down 6 will be right there. So we'll connect those and draw the asymptotes. And now we just have to figure out which way it goes. Whichever letter's first. The x is first. So it's going to be horizontal through the vertex on each side, not crossing those asymptotes, kind of like that. Now for the lovely parabolas. Let's get the vertex. H is next to the x, k is next to the y. Opposite signs, so -4, +1. Let's go ahead and plot that. -4, +1 is right there. In order to figure out which way the axis of symmetry is, we have to know which way this is opening, up, down, left, right. Since y is first, it's going to be vertical, and since it's negative, it's going to be opening down. So this parabola will look like that. Now I can place the axis of symmetry up and down right through that vertex. The equation for that line, since it's going through -4 on the x-axis, is x equals -4. Now for the value of p. We set 4p equal to that number, -4. So p is going to equal -1. That means that the focus is down 1 from the vertex, and the directrix is up 1 from the vertex. So that's the directrix, that's the focus, that green one's the axis of symmetry. So the value of p was -1. We just need the coordinates of that focus. So this black dot right here is back 4 and 0 up. The equation for the directrix, see that black dashed line? It's going through 2 on the y-axis. That's our equation. Y equals 2. Alright, now let's graph this parabola. H is next to the x, k is next to the y, so the vertex is -1, +3. So let's plot that, -1, +3, so right there. Let's figure out which direction this one's going. Since x is first, it's going to be horizontal, and since that's negative, it's going to be going to the left. So something like that. Now we can see that the axis of symmetry is going to be horizontal right through that vertex. And the equation for that line, since it's going through 3 on the y, is y equals 3. The value of p. 4p equals that, -8. So when we divide by 4, we get -2. That means we have to go left 2 to get the focus, and right 2 from the vertex to get the directrix. So let's write the coordinates of that point right there. It is 3 back and 3 up. So -3, 3. The equation for the directrix goes through 1 on the x-axis. So it's x equals 1. Let's make a decision as to which conic section this equation is. Well, I see some fractions, so it's basically going to be between a hyperbola and an ellipse. And see that minus sign? It's a hyperbola. What about number 16? I don't see any fractions, and that's not a 1, so this must be a circle. What about number 17? This isn't in the form that we can tell really quickly by. So we need a, that's next to the x squared. A is 7. We need b, that's next to the xy term. Do you see any xy's? I don't, so that means b is 0. And then we need what c equals. C is next to the y squared term, and I don't see any of those. So let's plug it into the b squared minus 4ac formula. So it's going to be 0 squared minus 4 times 7 times 0, which will be 0 minus 0. And when we get 0 for the answer, without a doubt, our answer is a parabola. That's the answer to number 17. Now let's try number 18. We need the a. A is right next to x squared, so it's -12. We need b. It's next to the xy term. Oh, I don't see any xy's. And we need c. That's always right next to the y squared, so it's -3. Don't forget the sign. So b squared minus 4 times a times c. So this is going to be 0. And then if you type in -4 times -12 times -3, you're going to get -144. 0 minus 144 is -144. And since we got a negative answer, it's either going to be a circle or an ellipse. In order for it to be a circle, a and c have to be equal, as well as b equaling 0. B equals 0, but since a and c are not the same, number 18 is an ellipse. Alright, let's chop these cones up into conic sections. For making a circle, your line has to be parallel to the bottom of the cone. It has to be perfectly horizontal for a circle. To make an ellipse, it needs to go through the cone, but it's some sort of a diagonal. It doesn't matter if the diagonal is going that way or the other way, but it has to be slanty. To make a parabola, you need to chop off a corner of the ellipse, like that, or like that. And to make a hyperbola, the last one, you need to make a perfectly vertical line through both cones, just like that.